I'm going to start off by asking you, how does someone prove whether there's a market for their product or service? And how can they be sure that their business meets the need of their chosen market sector?
Yeah, sure. So I think as a theme that I think as all of these questions will come back to, a really important thing to be a common thread when you're setting a business up and you are the person driving that business out to take it to a market to work with people is actually absolutely to have a passion for what you're doing and an instinctive belief in what it is that you're trying to do. So there's a start. So the first bit about, whether do I believe there's something out there that needs to go on? Every entrepreneur, every business is about seeing either a gap in a market or a problem that needs to be solved. And it's so important to really understand what the problem is you're selling, particularly from a marketing perspective, rather than I've got a solution. But businesses that work in the technology area, you've got very smart people. They set up a piece of technology that is a fantastic solution, but they've not really kind of worked out what's the exam question I was trying to answer and what's this doing for anybody. So the first bit to it is really just to have that personal instinct. There's something wrong in the world. I want to change what that something wrong in the world is. And just to start from that standpoint is really good because it makes you kind of a bit of a lobbyist for who you are, and you become very personally passionate behind it. So when you go into, as we'll talk more about marketing through the other questions, you get into that, telling a simple truth that you want to put right. But that's a great thing as an instinct and a place to start. That is absolutely not the place to go to if you're going to actually run a business. So sitting behind that and getting to the second point you said about, is there a market for what I'm trying to do? That's really starting to put the evidence and the measurements and the testing and all of the research that you need to go around to say, right, great, I've seen a problem. Great, I think I've got a solution, but do people actually want the solution I've got out there? So, there's some simple things that you can do, and none of this is driven by the scale of the business, whether you're just going to do something on yourself for yourself, or you're going to try and set up a business with other people. It really is just validating, right? I'm going to operate in this place. I'm going to do this stuff in this space. Do I see that there's going to be footfalls of customers? And if it's something which is quite visible, I launched I helped launch an insurance business which was going to run off an app on a mobile phone, and literally we got some young folks to go and stand in very busy bits in the centre of London, go up to people and say, look, I've got this thing, would you use it? And it was just fed back research. So it was very anecdotal, but it was truly measurable. It was done without any pre-preparation. So by the time the people got it back, they were giving those emotional responses again. Oh, I like that. I don't like that. Have you thought about doing that? So you've already got that user testing. And this is a long time before, the app wasn't built. This was literally just pictures on the screen. But what it showed was, yes, there was a market. Yes, there were people that were going to be customers. We could actually identify the customers because we saw them. We knew that they were young, old, white, colored, male, female, tech savvy, not tech savvy. So you got to know your audience sitting in there, and so on and so forth. So you built that kind of empirical measured validation that's sitting in there. The other bit, which is really important, and more so if you're looking to do something which is a little bigger and you really want to sell something at a larger scale, there are some classic methodologies about looking at a total addressable market. There are X million people in the universe of people I want to work with. So there's the big number. But actually, I can only reasonably service this amount of people. So within that big number, that smaller number will come down to people that I know are going to like what I've done. That validated servicing we were talking about, that maybe live in a certain area, or if you're a physical business and you live in a certain postcode, lovely going to be elsewhere. If you're online, that's different, but then how do I connect with them? So you go from that big universe down to reasonably how many people live in my universe, and within that number, how many people reasonably do I think I can attract and I can get to? So there's hopefully the answer to the first question. Start with your passion, your instinct, do some simple measurements around it, validate and be objective about those measurements. don't ask your mum if she would buy it, because she would say yes. But that's not an answer. Go and ask a stranger, because they don't know you and they'll give you that objectivity. So the second bit was about meeting demand. So again, we talked about testing that hypothesis sitting out there. And that's a really good place to start. And, I urge anybody watching this to explore the world of a thing called a lean canvas. And a lean canvas is a template. You download any of them off the internet, and they'll all sit out there. They're free to use. But what they are, they're a grid of questions and standard questions that this canvas poses to you. And it doesn't give you a lot of space to answer them. And it is about, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Who do you think you're doing it for? Why do you think you're different than anyone else? What do you think you're doing that is different to anybody else? What do you think you could charge for what you're going to do? What will be the value that you're thinking, and how would you change someone's life? So it comes to quite big philosophical, and there are others. I mean, I'll give you a selection of them. I think there's about 15, 20 of these questions on it. But actually, as that bit that I'm going to take to the market and the sector, you need to answer every one of those boxes, because if you can't answer those boxes, it doesn't matter, again, whether you're going to be doing something on your own or something for somebody else. You've not thought through everything you need to do around that business. And a big part of that is, how am I going to connect with customers? And that kind of methodology, very simple methodology, no cost, just your own time and honest answers to yourself, kind of gets you that you've got the ability then to actually have the passion, done some research, but now fully thought through the concept of what I'm doing. And that is the absolute best place to start.